Hey, welcome into another episode of the Fat Guy Podcast. I am the Fat Guy. Most people just call me Brett Mason. Thanks for listening today. Today will be something I'm even hesitant to do. But look, I want to help anybody, no matter their motivation, no matter their ability to comply. You know, a lot of people are like, I'd like to lose some weight, but I'm just not going to try too hard. Well, I don't really think you want to lose weight all that bad if you don't want to try too hard. But for the sake of trying to help people get as healthy as they can, because, God, that's really the only thing that brings me any kind of motivation in life, I prepared this podcast for you. It's weight loss for lazy people. It's weight loss for people who just ain't going to do much. This is the simplest, easiest way that you can lose some weight without really changing your life all that much. It's the bare minimum. And surprisingly, it's really effective. We'll talk about it in a minute. First, the disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I have no formal medical training. You should not be taking medical or any kind of advice like that from me. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to share things that I've learned and read. I'm here to share my own personal experiences with you. Anything you hear in this is my personal opinion or some experiences that I've had. It's not intended as specific medical advice for you, and it's not intended as specific weight loss or dietary advice for you. You should always consult with a doctor. That's what you do. Check us out on the social medias, Instagram. Everything I was doing on Snapchat, I've now moved to Instagram stories because basically that's the same thing. So I'll do posts on Instagram from time to time. And then if I'm sharing what I'm eating or something that I used to do on Snapchat, that'll be on an Instagram story. So that's where you need to be, Instagram. Fat Guy Podcast is the username. And, of course, on Facebook, Fat Guy Podcast. You can find us there. And we're on Twitter as well. Same username, Fat Guy Podcast. So, look. Over my 5-year-long quest to lose weight and figure out what works best, I've done just about everything. And I've done a lot of things that worked well. I've done things that worked okay. I did things that worked good but were really hard. I've done things that worked really well that were relatively easy. I've done it all. That ranged from raw veganism to low-carb diet, ketogenic diet, fasting, intermittent fasting, combinations of several. I don't think many people on this planet have put as much time into not just trying things, but actually researching it, documenting it, keeping records, tracking things, all these things. I've done all this stuff. And then on top of that, I've tried to spend as much time as possible researching the actual health benefits to the various things, so to see which is healthy, and encompassing things like heart disease, cancer, stroke, high blood pressure, diabetes, et cetera, et cetera. Because I want to lose weight and I also want to be healthy. And I definitely don't want to lose weight if it's going to make me die sooner. What's the point in losing weight if it kills you? So all that being said, I've learned things that work well. I've learned things that work really, really well, and things that just work okay, and things that are super hard to do. And I still advocate if you have a moderate to a lot amount of weight to lose, you're just not going to get better than the only thing better than a ketogenic diet is fasting. That's just not eating. Don't eat for 2 days. Don't eat for 3 days. Don't eat for 5 days. Whatever. You fast as long as you can fast. Then you eat. Then you fast again. People think you'll die or get weak if you don't fast. That's generally not true. You have to fast a really long time and be really ignorant about it for there to be any kind of risk of death or whatever, in my opinion. And from the reading and my own personal experience. But look, anybody can fast 2 days or 3 days, 4 days or 5 days. And the beautiful thing about that is if you get to day 3 or day 4, you start feeling really good. Day 5, you'll feel amazing. You just got to get through those first couple of days. It's really remarkable how well you can feel fasting. Nevertheless, that's not what this is about. I just want to explain to you I've done it all and tried it all. And as a matter of fact, today is day 1 of what I plan on being an extended fast for me. I have utilized intermittent fasting and some extended fasting off and on during my weight loss process. And I find it really helpful. I find it really invigorating. And I find I feel great when I'm doing it, no matter what level I'm doing it at. But what we're going to talk about today is intermittent fasting. So what intermittent fasting means is you're fasting, but you're still eating every day. So you're never going a day without food. Okay? You're eating every day. But what you're doing is when you stop eating at night, you're just putting more time between then and the next time you eat. So most people, they'll eat their last meal or snack or whatever it is that they eat. They'll eat it at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night or something. I don't know, 11 o'clock at night. Everybody's different. And they'll go to bed and they wake up the next morning at 7 or 6. They take a shower, whatever, get ready, and then they eat breakfast. They're eating breakfast by 8 or whatever. So 6, 7, 8 hours have gone by since the last time they eat, and that's it. So what intermittent fasting does is you definitely want to stop eating at night at a reasonable time. You don't want to eat dinner at 7 and then claim that you've stopped eating, but then at 10 you're eating some kind of snack that's 200-300 calories, because really that's your last meal. I've talked to a lot of people that'll do that. They'll be like, no, I don't eat a meal after 7. And then after talking to them, you realize, well, they don't eat a meal after 7, but they're eating a 250 calorie snack at 11. So really that's your last meal. So what intermittent fasting does is pushes the time between your last meal today and your first meal tomorrow. Really, in simplest terms, like I like to tell people, basically just skipping breakfast is the easiest way to think about it. You just don't eat breakfast, okay? But you do want to stop eating a reasonable amount of time before you sleep. I try to tell people about 7 o'clock, I think, is really the latest you should be eating. But now, if you work a job where you don't get off till 7, then probably 8 o'clock will be your last time to eat, And if 7:30 is when you get off work, by the time you can get home and get you something to eat, maybe 8:30 or whatever. It's going to be different for everybody. But if you have a generally normal, quote unquote, normal schedule, like probably 80% of the 60, 70, 80% of the population, eating at 7 p.m. is probably good. So the numbers that I give you here, adjust them for your schedule. Look, if you're a second or third shift worker, take these times that I'm using and just adjust them to fit what your life is, because I can't give it for every life. Just take the example I'm using and adjust it to where it works out exactly the same for your life, okay? So basically it's going to be before bed and after waking is the way, I guess the simplest way to talk about it. So, you don't want to be eating anything after 2 to 3, maybe 4 hours before bed. So if you're eating your last meal at 7 p.m., you're probably going to be going to bed by 10, right? That makes sense. Maybe 11. If you're going to bed at 10 or 11, you shouldn't be eating after 7. So you're going to eat dinner at 7. The next morning, you're going to get up, do your normal routine. You're just not going to eat breakfast, okay? You're just not going to eat breakfast. You're not going to eat anything until after around noon or so. At around noon, between 11 and noon, you'll have your first meal of the day, which is lunch for most people. But that'll be your first meal. Now, I'm going to differentiate between what's optimum and what you'll probably do when you first start out trying this intermittent fasting. And I'm also going to talk about results. So if you're curious about what kind of results you could possibly expect from this really easy way to lose weight, I'll talk about it. So hang on for that. But when you first start this, you're going to be accustomed to eating 3 times a day. You may still want to do that. A lot of people freak out. So, that's okay. You can eat at like noon, between 11 and noon or something. Then eat again at around 3. You probably won't want a real big meal then, but you eat you a 200, 300, 400 calorie something then. Make it healthy. Doesn't need to be 2 candy bars. And I'm not even talking about what to eat. I'm not even going to tell you what to eat. Just eat reasonable food, okay? That's all I'm going to say. Just eat some reasonable food. Just be reasonable about it. And then you're going to eat again at that 7 o'clock. So you're going to eat 3 times between 11 to noon, somewhere in that range. You're going to start eating, and then you're going to eat at 7. You're going to make sure it all happens within 8 hours. You don't go outside of 8 hours. So from whenever you start eating, and let's say that's, if you say your first meal, you start eating that at noon, you want to be done putting stuff in your mouth before 8, okay? You don't start eating at 8 and finish at 8:30. You're finished at 8, okay? All your eating happens between 8 hours, 8-hour bookends. So after you've done that for a week or so, you should be over the anxiety of it, thinking it's going to be hard, and you'll probably realize it's not that hard at all. Then what you really need to move to is like, I'm just going to eat twice a day. I'm going to eat at I'm going to eat at noon, and then I'm going to eat at 7. That's it. I'm going to eat at noon. I'll eat a big, nice meal at noon. I'm going to make sure I'm plenty full, plenty satisfied, and then I'm not going to eat again till 7. And I'll be done by 7:30, 7:45, whatever. Again, eat you another big, satisfying meal and make it a reasonable meal. It's not a meal of, don't make it donuts and candy bars and chocolate milk. A reasonable meal. Whatever you, from the best of your knowledge, is appealing to you and reasonably healthy, okay? I'm not going to give you rules on eating. This is the lazy way. This is a lazy, I ain't going to put hardly no effort into it way to try to lose some weight and be healthier. So 2 times a day. Now, when I say that, I really mean that. So you got to stop thinking in terms of snacks. There's no such thing as a snack. If you eat a snack, that's a meal. Just because it's smaller doesn't mean it ain't a meal. It's still a meal. Whether it's 250 calories or 200, it's still a meal. It's just a 200-calorie meal rather than a 600-700-calorie meal. It's still a meal. Snacks are out. Snacks are the creation of the devil. Snacks are one of the reasons the whole world is fat. Eating all day, eating many, many times a day, from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, and eating bad food is why we're all fat. It really is a simple equation. That's the one beautiful thing I've learned. There's no rocket science behind why we're all fat. So you just can't eat all day every day. It keeps your insulin level really high. Your insulin level prevents you, not only does it help you store fat really easily, it doesn't allow you to burn fat. And so how do you keep insulin level high? Well, just eat all day. That's how you do it. Turns out it's really simple. Nothing complicated about it. You don't need some kind of degree in nutrition to understand it. So that'll be your ultimate goal. So then you'll just be eating 2 meals a day. Trust me, you're going to feel fine. You're going to be satisfied. It's not going to harm your social life. You can still go to lunch with your friends during work, and you can still eat dinner with the family at home. The only thing you're missing is breakfast. That's it. That's all you're missing. And if you think about it, who has time to deal with breakfast anyway? No. Let me clarify this too. Breakfast is not the most important meal of the day. That's the biggest line of bullshit ever sold to people. It is the most important meal of the day if you want to stay fat. No. After you have been asleep for 8 hours, however long you sleep, and you finally manage to get up the next morning, your body is just at that time about to enter into its peak of fat burning. And so you want to extend that time, generally speaking, 3 to 4 hours. So you get a nice 3 to 4 hours of super low insulin levels, super low blood glucose levels, and a high level of fat burning. As a matter of fact, that's the best time to exercise. If you can be a morning workout person, you want to do it fasted. It's fasted cardio, even fasted weight training, whatever kind of workout you do it fasted. You're going to magnify the weight loss effect. Now, I'm not telling you to work out. I'm just saying if you already do it, that's the time you should be doing it. You should be doing it fasted. You should be doing it that next morning when you get up. That is your peak of fat burning. That is when the trough of insulin levels is at its lowest, your trough of blood glucose level is at lowest, and your fat burning is going to be at its peak. And then you're giving it that 3, 4, 5 hours to do work for you before you start cramming food back in your mouth again at noon. So it's long been known that one of the most effective weight loss things ever is called alternate day fasting. That's where you eat one day and you don't eat a day. You eat a day, you don't eat a day. I remember this diet way back when I was in my teenage years and all the science was on it. And it blew up big on the TV and the news and everybody's talking about it. And it works great. It's one of the best things you can, but it's hard. It's hard to go a whole day without eating and not eat till the next day. And the thing about this diet is a lot of people start out on it and they have results, but they just can't keep doing it. After a month, they're like, oh, I can't do it anymore. 2 months, however long. So the attrition rate of people falling off this diet winds up being pretty high by the end. But it's a great diet from a losing weight standpoint and from a health standpoint. People who do this diet, their health markers all go up. Their lipid panel gets better. Usually their triglycerides are way much lower. Their blood pressure gets better. Blood glucose, everything gets better. So it's a great way to lose weight, but just people can't stay on it. Now, what's interesting about this is if you compare that, which is going a whole day without eating, then eat the next day, then go a whole day without eating, They just completed a research study where they went back. There was a study done on these there's been actually several studies done on alternate day fasters, the eat a day and off a day, eat a day, off a day. So they have all this data from many studies that have been done, but they took 2 of the best. And then what they did was they said, like, hey, we're going to study people on this intermittent fasting, where you just eat within an 8-hour window. You're eating every day. You don't ever go a day without food. You're eating every day. You're just putting it in an 8-hour window. And you're eating 2 times a day, noon and 7. And they compared the outcomes of that after 4 months to the 4-month studies that they had on people who did eating every other day, or fasting every other day, whichever way you want to look at it. And when the study was over, it was remarkable, the results. The people that were doing intermittent fasting actually, as a result, wound up eating less calories on a weekly average than the people who were fasting every other day. Why? Because on the day the people finally could eat, they were binging out like madmen because they had fasted the day before. So while their calories levels did come down from a person who eats every day, it was still higher than the people who did the intermittent fasting that eat every day and just put it in an 8-hour window. So they were eating fewer calories on hours just naturally, not trying to. You just naturally were eating less food just because of the way it's constructed. The other thing that they learned was when you compared the blood results, the blood test results, the lipids, the blood pressures, the blood glucose, and all these things, it was comparable. It was almost identical. You got the same results from either way of eating. So the results were the same. And then the last remarkable thing about it was the attrition rate was not as high. In fact, nearly everybody that started out on intermittent fasting was still doing it at the end of the study. Only a couple of people quit. Whereas on the people who started out trying the every other day fasting thing, by the end of the study, nearly everybody had quit. It was over half of the people had just quit. They're like, we can't do it anymore. We're done with it. So if you want a really lazy, I ain't putting much effort into it, I don't want to count calories, I don't want to count macros, I don't want to worry about food composition, I don't want to do any of this stuff, I just want a stupid, lazy way to lose weight, intermittent fasting is for you. You get to eat every day, you get to maintain a pretty normal life. Like when I'm keto and I go out with people always say, hey man, let's go out to eat. Where can we go that you can eat? And the answer to that is really pretty much anywhere except for it's hard for me to eat Chinese. It's hard for me to eat Mexican on keto. But most restaurants that serve meat, I can eat at. If you serve me a meat and they have at least one kind of vegetable that isn't potatoes, I can eat there. So it's not that complicated, but there still are considerations. The advantage to this intermittent fasting is you can eat dinner anywhere. You can go to the Mexican restaurant. Sure, that's not the best place to eat. You probably shouldn't do it every night. But you can go there. Your friends hit you up on a Friday and say, hey, you want to go out and have a Mexican with us Friday? You can go, absolutely. I need to be done by 8. Let's get there at 6:30 to make sure we can talk a while, then order, and I can be done eating by 8. That's the only thing. Your friends at work say, hey, Bill, you going to come to lunch with us today? You're like, hell yeah, I'm coming to lunch with you today. And you get to go to lunch. It doesn't change your social life at all. The only thing it changes is you're not eating breakfast anymore. That's pretty much it. It is the easiest way to lose weight. So, it's not optimum. There's a lot more things you could add on this to make it better. You could make it keto. The most powerful weight loss combination I've ever seen is combining keto with intermittent fasting. You're doing both. You're eating in the 8-hour window, and when you do eat, it's keto. If you do that combination, you're going to drop weight like nobody's business. You're going to feel amazing. The pounds are going to shed off like you wouldn't believe. And then you can push it even further and push it to a 6-hour eating window, or even my favorite, where I feel my best, is eating in a 4-hour window, where I eat at 4 and 7:30. Something like that. I feel my absolute best when I do that. Or maybe, 4 to 5 hours. Sometimes I could only make it at 3:30. So my first meal is 3:30. My last meal is at 7:30. You cram it into a really short eating window, man, it really magnifies the weight loss effect. And it's pretty easy to do. And you combine keto and that intermittent fasting, it's crazy, crazy, crazy what kind of results you'll get. But look, you don't want to count macros. You don't want to try to eat keto. You just want to be lazy. You don't want to track nothing you eat in no app. You're like, I don't give a crap what my fat ratio is or what my carbs are. You can get results with intermittent fasting. They won't be crazy, crazy results. But generally speaking, you start it. 4 weeks from now, you should weigh less than you do now. 8 weeks from now, you should definitely weigh less than you do 4 weeks from now. You'll see a downward trend in weight loss, and you'll be progressing towards healthier rather than progressing towards unhealthier. So give it a try. Share this with people that you think it'll help. Thank you so much for listening to the episode today. I really appreciate it. Follow us on social media. Fat Guy Podcast is the username, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or not Snapchat. I don't use Snapchat anymore. Twitter. And then finally, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. If you're an Apple person, you got Apple Podcasts, Fat Guy Podcast you just need to look for. And if you are a Google person, we are in the Google Play Store, their podcast section or whatever. If you search for Fat Guy Podcast, you should be able to find it. And lastly, share. Oh, and if you don't use either of those and you're confused about how to do podcasts, don't forget the Spreaker app. The Spreaker app is the easiest way. It's a free app. Download it. Spreaker, Spreaker. Download that app. Once you download it, go into it, search for Fat Guy Podcast. Hit the heart button. Follow, like, subscribe, or whatever, and you'll get notified about new episodes, and you can scroll back and see all the old episodes. And then the most important thing is to share. Share. You literally change people's life when you share this podcast with them. How do I know? Because I've seen it happen too many times now that I've been doing the podcast. Somebody will find the podcast, they'll get a piece of information, and it'll change their life. They start getting healthier, they start losing weight. So you want to change somebody's life? Share this podcast. Appreciate you. Talk to you next time.